In this game, I was under very serious pressure and I want to show you how you can handle it and outplay your opponent starting from a really worse position. Hi guys! Hi guys, it's International Master again, Elisev, and today we're gonna play a 10 minutes game and I'm gonna comment it all the way through and hopefully it's gonna be entertaining and instructive for you. So we are playing here as black against a pretty strong player, 2174. He played d4, I played d6, which is one of my favorite moves for black because it's very universal. You could play it against pretty much everything, and he played c4 and then I played e5. Knight f3, yeah, it's one of the possible ways to go. We are never afraid of this endgame after d takes and queen takes d8. Knight f3, well, I can be very aggressive here and play e4, but well, I prefer just to stay very solid with knight d7, and unfortunately our opponent left the game. Yeah, now he's back. Yeah. So the point is, the position is very solid for black and we can develop our pieces quite normally, nothing to worry about. Yeah, c6 is always a very useful move here to make sure that this knight doesn't land on d5. This is a part of Learn How I Think series where I play those games and comment it along the way, trying to help you to understand how an international master thinks through the game. And the goal is to achieve 2500 as fast as possible. Yeah, let's see how it goes in this game. So yeah, of course, white has a little bit more space in the center, is a little bit more active. Can play h6, but the drawback is that this bishop can go to g3 eventually and put some pressure on this e5 pawn. Well, taking into account the fact that he played e3 instead of e4, I could potentially think about the e4 idea myself, supporting it with d5 afterwards. To prepare that, I could start with rook e8, always a very useful move, and still, he's not stopping, he didn't place his bishop on d3, so I don't know, e4 feels to be pretty tempting. What I should be careful about is e4, knight d2 for example, d5 takes, he could go to d5 and then this knight c7 would be a fork and yeah, a very unpleasant turn of events. So instead I'm gonna start with a6, make sure that this square is covered, and that gives me a possibility to play b5 or this e4 move. And I guess I'm gonna go for e4. Why not, if I can control more space? I might also start with h6, because this way, well, I make sure that my king has a safe spot, just in case. When the bishop lands on g3, it could be potentially dangerous for my queen. So yeah, but if I play e4 anyway, he can go to f4, so I guess with h6 I just make sure that I'm in time to make this move. Yeah, now let's try this e4 idea. The knight goes to d2 and then d5. Okay, queen to b3, so the point is he's attacking this pawn, and currently I have not enough defenders. And I have to save it somehow. Maybe knight to b6 is an idea that if he plays c5 I can go back, but then the position would be closed. Because if I go to knight f8, which is actually a better move for me, then he could exchange the knight and then win the pawn on d5. There is a more aggressive option to play g5 here, and then of course I wouldn't have any difficulties with the pawn anymore. Let me try it. It feels to be very interesting. Of course it's risky, but let's see how it goes. So the knight would be very great on g6, preparing some potential attacks on the king's side. And well, of course, very important for me is to make sure that nothing dangerous happens here in the center. For example, I can play here b5, kind of provoking him to take, and then I'm ready to continue my development. Guess I'm gonna do it. The danger is, of course, that I'm opening the c file, which might be a little bit of a problem, but yeah, I still can't play bishop e6, the b7 pawn is hanging, so I guess it's necessary for me, so that I can finish my development with bishop to e6 and rook to c8, and then maybe queen d7. This knight will go to g6, and then maybe I will push on the king side. That is the plan. I don't really want to place my bishop on b7 because there it's very passive, whereas on e6 it still has some active ideas here, potentially. So now I'm just one move away from fighting for this c file. Maybe he wants to play b4 and then prepare the move a4. Or maybe he wants to play knight b3 and then trying to fight for the c file. Or maybe b4 first and then knight b3 and knight c5. Yeah, that is actually a very clever idea, and my knight should be somewhere on c4 to fight against that, so maybe I actually need to play knight to d7. Should be a little bit careful with my queen though, and also the d5 pawn would be hanging, so I can't actually play that. I can play bishop. No, maybe I can, because he has some checks. Yes, the spin doesn't really help me. Also, my knight could go back to b6 now from f8. Yeah, let me do it. Yeah, he goes for his plan, and I'm going for my plan. Seems like my knight would be there first. Doesn't really matter, because, well, he still can play knight c5. Here is the question, whether I can play a5 here, trying to use this spin here, this tension between the rook and the queen. It's always great to have your rook against the queen. But I'm not sure if I can do that, to be honest. But if I don't do it, he can play a4. That's not something I would like to see. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me start with queen b6. Trying to protect here everything, to stabilize the situation somehow. I also need to keep an eye on the clock, because yeah, it could become dangerous at some point. There is no increment. He plays f4. Yeah, but that's a bad move. It just blunders here. A pawn on e3. Gonna, of course, take it. Yeah, I'm very confused with this move. I don't see an idea. Also, the d4 pawn would be weak now. It's not protected by the pawn anymore. This knight can go to f5 potentially, attacking the bishop. Yeah, I guess he must take on g5 now, trying to secure some squares for his bishop. Maybe I can even take the rook in this case. Left the game as well. Hopefully he's gonna come back. So f takes g, knight takes d1, g takes f, knight takes c3. I'm attacking the queen, he must take it back, and then I take it back with the bishop, and there is some extra material for black. So it means he can take on g5, then just a bad position, because if he moves the rook somewhere, the knight goes to f5. Yes, knight goes to f5 with a double attack. Yeah, maybe then he takes on g5, but I can take on g3 and then on f6. Yeah, that's great. And also look at this pawn, that's beautiful passer now. Yes, this f4 just spoiled the whole game for him. He goes back, but now I can just take on d4, take another pawn. Don't see any reason not to. Now the c5 is hanging, this diagonal is becoming weak. Yeah, this f4 was horrible. Sometimes it happens with the lower rated players that they are making some significant positional mistakes without even understanding it. Because this pawn chain was so incredibly important, and with f4 he destroyed it altogether. Okay, so his idea is to take on g5 somehow and create some difficulties for my king, but I have this knight b3 move with a tempo. Because the knight is pinned, you can take it. Otherwise it's a fork here. And once again, I move with the tempo. Moreover, if queen goes to e3, I also have d4 idea. Forking the queen and the knight, and the e4 is protected. Or I can also take on c5 and he can't take it back because he's gonna lose the queen. Yeah, so he is basically busted here. It would be a very interesting position if he wouldn't have played f4 there and just continued normally. Maybe a4. I thought a4 is a very good idea. Okay, so now I can take on c5, I can take the rook. I can play d4. d4 is a very cute line. Although, yeah, e4 is hanging. Takes. Queen takes. Yeah, and I don't really have a very good follow-up. Okay, then let me just take on c5 with a check. Okay, it doesn't take it. That's weird. Weird stuff happening on the board. I just have too much extra material. I don't know what to do with it. d4 is coming. Yet another piece. Although I don't really want to take it because those pawns are so beautiful. But okay, I have to. Just need to be a little bit careful with the skin, not to run into some kind of stalemate. Sorry, not stalemates, perpetual checks. Yeah, like that. Somehow I missed that the pawn is hanging, but now I guess I can play f5 or maybe bishop f7. Yeah, bishop f7 seems to be good, because now I cover this important square and I also open the e file, and that should be enough. Yeah, forgot that the queen is hanging, apparently. And yeah, now it should be pretty simple. I have 40 seconds, but in such a position it's more than enough. Rook takes. Yeah, I'm just taking the bishop. Okay, let me develop the last piece into the game. No matter what, the best rule is always develop as many pieces as possible, make it as active as possible, and then you are going to be able to convert your advantage. Because what's the point of having extra material if you don't use it, right? I also want to bring my bishop here. That would be the last piece which is active now. Okay, so here it should be somehow checkmate. Knight g4 and queen f3. Okay, so yeah, that was a pretty interesting game. Let's take a look at the analysis. What happened here? So the game started with d4, d6, c4, e5, and that's all pretty normal. A6, and here I played the move E5, which, yeah, according to the engine is not so great. I'm grabbing some space in the center, but I suppose the engine sees some possibilities for white to fight against this center. Yeah, bishop e5. Yeah, bishop e5 is a good move, because the problem is I have to deal with this d5 pawn, and it's kind of vulnerable. And I can't play bishop e6, that's my problem, because this b6 pawn is hanging. b7 pawn, sorry. And also he can play f3, which is a pretty typical move, and then opening up the f file, and also maybe adding some additional attackers to the d5 pawn. That would have been pretty dangerous. Instead, he played rook d1, which doesn't make any sense, honestly, because this d file is completely closed and it's not going to be opened anytime soon. The rook was much more active potentially along the f file. I played b5, trying to make sure that he takes on d5 and I can finish my development. Queen a2, yeah, just too passive here. Knight goes to c4, knight goes to c5. Once again, the engine says it's better for white. Yeah, this knight is actually great. And I played queen b6 and bishop e5 was possible. Yeah, a4, like I said, that seemed like the best opportunity for white here. But yeah, I felt like a5 is not a move for me, and the engine confirms it, because somehow he has more active ideas. I was thinking about just taking on c4, and then no matter what I'm doing, he is playing knight b7. Okay, that's actually not a big deal somehow. I guess because this knight is kind of trapped on a5, but I didn't even like this position. But of course he has something much better, like knight takes b5, and now if I take here, I can take on c4, on e6. Yeah, and then I have a horrible pawn structure, and he has this fork here, forking pretty much everything. And if I take on a3, he takes on c4, and yeah, my whole position collapses. So a4 was the best opportunity, like I said, and all of a sudden he played this f4 move after queen b6, which changes everything from like +2 to -1. Knight is 3. Yeah, like I said, this variation was critical. I thought I can take. Seems like I could have taken. Yeah, and then knight takes e3 and I'm winning. But here the engine says he should have just taken back with a bishop and just trying to fight in this position. Yeah, maybe he has a little bit of activity, but still, of course, better for black. Instead, he played here rook e1, which is once again too passive. And then I took another pawn on d4, and of course this position is completely lost. Nothing really matters here anymore. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this game. This is how you can play as black, how you can outplay your opponent, how can you use the chances he gives you, because at some point, especially lower rated players tend to blunder some stuff, and well, even though I haven't played ideally in this game, you could see the ideas that lie behind this d6 opening, which is a very solid one. And well, I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you want to get some educational videos constantly, and see you in the next one.